Madam Presiding Member, I make that 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Chris. I'm echoing. Apologies a minute.
We're trying to. Why don't it go off?
I'm trying to look. There we go. Who? Yeah, it's the Bore Croeso, good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the hybrid meeting of Council. A special welcome to our members in the gallery up there. The Council meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I've had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this morning will be conducted in English only. Members in the Chamber, please be aware that we're all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. Please remember to keep your microphones muted when you are not talking. May I remind members that as per the statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask you all to please use your cameras for the duration of this meeting? Please be aware that this meeting is being transcribed only for the purposes of producing the minutes. The transcript will be deleted once the committee approves the minutes, and the transcript should not be downloaded by anyone other than Democratic Services. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1 is attendance. Democratic Services will be making a note of members' attendance in the meeting, but should you lose connection, could you possibly leave a comment in the chat bar on your return to ensure that this is picked up? Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Dominique, do we have any apologies, please?
I've had apologies from Councillors Stuart Ashley, Nick Byrne, Liam Cowles, Giles Davis, Elizabeth Haynes, Janet Jones and Nathan Yeo.
Thank you, Dom. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Stella Harris, Monitoring Officer. Have you any advice for members, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'm not aware of any interests that need to be declared. Thank you.
Agenda item 4 is receipt of petitions. We have one petition today, and the petition is in relation to safety improvements on the A4042 between Llanfrecffer and Llanarafon. We have two young people here today to present the petition on behalf of Torfaen resident Michelle Evans. Kaylee Moore and Fraser Moore, could you please come up and present your petition, please?
Morning all. We, the residents, parents, workers and visitors who rely on the A4042 between Llanfrecffer and Llanarafon are calling for urgent safety improvements to protect pedestrians, cyclists and motorists travelling to and from the Grange University Hospital and surrounding communities. Following a recent fatal collision on this stretch of the A4042, long-standing concerns from local residents have reached a critical point. For years, people living nearby have warned that this section of dual carriageway, particularly between the Turnpike and Crown roundabouts, presents serious dangers for both drivers and pedestrians. This road is used daily by hospital staff, patients, school children and families travelling between Llanfrecffer, Llanarafon and Cwmbran to access any community links. Yet those needing to cross the road or join the carriageway often face fast-moving traffic, limited safe crossing points and junction layouts that create confusion and risk.
The existing subway near Turnpike Road roundabout is widely considered unsafe by many residents and not even reachable for residents who live on Crown Road or Highfield Close. This leads people, including children, to attempt crossing at road level instead. This is currently no clear, safe and accessible route for pedestrians travelling between communities and essential services such as schools and the hospital. You, as a council, have confirmed that there is no safe walking route to school for myself and have therefore arranged transport for me. While I have appreciate this support, I am deeply concerned that this acknowledgement of risk does not appear to attend to other members of the public who are still expected to cross and use this road without appropriate safety measures.
Residents also report dangerous conditions when joining the A4042 from minor roads, particularly Crown Road, where visibility and traffic speed make safe merging extremely difficult. The recent tragedy has reinforced what our community has been saying for years. These roads need urgent safety intervention before more lives are lost. We are therefore calling on Torfaen Council and Welsh Government and relevant transport authorities to conduct an immediate and comprehensive road safety review of the A4042 between Turnpike and Crown Roundabout, install a safe pedestrian crossing solution such as controlled crossing, overpass bridge or improved crossing infrastructure near key access points, consider installing a central safety partition or barrier to help control pedestrian crossing points and reduce dangerous movements across the dual carriageway, improve lighting, signage and visibility at junctions and pedestrian routes, work with local schools, the community and transport authorities to establish safe walking routes to education and essential services, including the Grange University Hospital. Publish and review collision and speed data to ensure safety risks are identified and addressed proactively. This petition is not about blame, it is about prevention. Our community simply wants to ensure that residents, patients, hospital staff and children can travel safely without risking their lives. We urge the Welsh Government and transport authorities to act now before another tragedy occurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kayleigh and Fraser, and thank you, Michelle. Members, do you agree for the petition to be sent to the relevant executive member for them to consider, respond and report back? All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much. That will be sent to the executive member. That takes us to agenda item 5, which is public question time. There are no public questions, so we move on to agenda item 6, the announcements from the leader. Leader, do you have any announcements, please?
Yes, Presiding Member, with just one announcement, and it's really a call to the Torfaen football community. I'm speaking to some fellow coaches, I coach myself. There's been an appeal for the new Ukrainian football team from Wales to have friendly matches, and it seems to me to be a good opportunity for us to raise some funds and have a charity match involving a Torfaen 11. So I've been asking coaches, and I'll keep Council informed of any progress we make.
Thank you, Leader. Chief Executive, do you have any announcements?
Nothing to add, thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 7, the annual report from the Chair of Ethics and Standards Committee. The report starts on page 3 of the agenda. Mr Rodriguez, Chair of the Ethics and Standards Committee, could you deliver this report for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is my fourth annual report that I'm presenting to full council. I'm not going to go through the entire report, just highlight a couple of key points. There have been a number of changes to the committee in the last year. The Community Council post that was previously held by Councillor Anthony Bird is currently vacant, so we're in the process of filling that. And Dr Joanna Hall, her tenure finished in October, and she has left. However, we successfully appointed a replacement, Lorraine Morgan. There were 2 meetings during the year. I'm pleased to say there was no Ombudsman referrals to the committee within the last 12 months. The main piece of work this year was around the ongoing work, working with the leaders around ensuring the promotion and maintaining of high standards. We met with the group leaders in February. Every year we give them a template and they fill it out, evidencing the actions that they take to ensure that there is good conduct and high standards. It was a really beneficial session, and I think it would be remiss of me not to put on record mine and the committee's thanks to the group leaders for their contributions and their willingness to engage in that process. I hope they found it beneficial, and there were a number of areas that we highlighted that they may want to explore in the future. We also deal with dispensations. I'm pleased to say that we agreed 42 of these for councillors during the last 12 months. The final thing would be around the importance, re-stressing the importance of ensuring that all members stay up to date with all training, in particular any mandatory training that is expected of members. It was discussed around possibility around refreshers around the Code of Conduct, and that is something we will discuss as a committee in the next 12 months as part of our work. And is there any questions?
Any questions from any members? Leader?
Yeah, I'd like to thank members of the committee for their work and also just reflect from a group leader's perspective on the value of those sessions. I do believe they help us to keep sort of good standards of conduct amongst our groups and between our groups, so they're invaluable sessions. And the other thing I'd like to draw attention is to the 42 dispensations, and that's because they enable us to help fund groups in our communities that we are involved with ourselves, not because we're beneficiaries of those groups, but because we volunteer for and with those groups. One example in my own ward is one of the food share schemes, and I raise funds for that scheme outside of my council activities, and also volunteer for the scheme. If it wasn't for the dispensation, I wouldn't be able to then support that group myself with money from the council on top of the other funds I do. So it's not about groups that councillors benefit from, it's about groups that councillors help contribute to in our work in our wards. I know that's true for members around this chamber.
Thank you, Leader. Any further questions? No? The recommendations are at 6.1. And it says, the Council receives and notes the annual report from the Ethics and Standards Committee as set out in the appendix. All those in favour, please? Any abstentions? That report is carried. Thank you very much, Mr Guest. Takes us to agenda item number 8, which is the Welsh Language Annual Monitoring Report 25-26, which starts on page 9 of your agenda. Alan Vernon-Jones, the Welsh Language Officer, could you deliver this report for us, please?
Bore da and good morning, members, and thank you, Presiding Member. Firstly, can I apologise for not being at the Civic Centre in person today to present you the Welsh Language Standards Annual Report for 2025-26, which is a requirement under the Welsh Language Wales Measure of 2011. Just a few points from the report. There are 5 statutory elements that must be included within the report. Firstly is compliance. The Council continues to provide Welsh language services to our residents in a proportionate and reasonable manner. Providing face-to-face services continues to be a difficult area for Welsh language speakers to communicate with the Council. But as you can see within the report, we have made significant efforts to recruit candidates with Welsh language skills, where we can offer those applying for posts who may not speak Welsh the opportunity to learn. AI continues to be a useful tool for our translators, increasing our translation capacity by 35% from the previous year. We currently translate about 2.5 million words. We are also fully utilising our translation memory software. However, we need to be cautious of publishing AI translations which have not been checked by a competent Welsh speaker. The second area is complaints. There was one complaint received by the Council during the period of the report and one received from the Welsh Language Commissioner. Both complaints were relating to street nameplates. As members know, Torfaen have adopted a policy of only having one official name for a street. Developers are encouraged, with huge success, I must admit, to that directorate, to adopt Welsh names for new streets, restoring the balance of English-Welsh street names throughout the borough. The Commissioner's complaint did not progress to a full investigation, as there was no failure to comply with the standards. Welsh language skills. During 2025-26, the Council continued to encourage staff to record their Welsh language skills on IVA, bringing us in line with the Welsh Language and Education Wales Act of 2025 and other local authorities, Welsh Government and also the Centre for Learning Welsh. 29% of the staff have completed the information on IVA so far. But despite this, with only 29%, we still have identified 54 members of staff who are proficient in the Welsh language. We have reminded all staff to complete their skills on IVA. Welsh language training. We must provide basic Welsh language training to our staff as part of the Welsh language standards. 7 individuals during 25-26 completed courses in learning Welsh. We have developed integrated impact assessment training for staff on the Thinky platform. However, due to staff long-term sickness, we have been unable to develop any further online training over the last year. Now that obviously that will be a priority for the current financial year. Lastly is recruitment. 100% of our 780 jobs advertised were advertised requiring essential or desirable Welsh language skills. The next step will be to look at those successful candidates to assess what skills they did bring to the workforce. In order to encourage candidates to use their Welsh they have learnt in school or in classes, we now ask for Welsh language desirable as a minimum for our advertised posts. This has not discouraged candidates with no Welsh language skills and has meant that the Council can comply with the standards in a more holistic way. This report must be published on our website by the 30th of June 2026 and made available at each of our offices. Lastly, I would like to thank elected members for their comments and support in the discussions around Torfaen Welsh place names with the Welsh Language Commissioner that is ongoing and will be reported in the next annual report. I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Alan. Councillor Peter Jones.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. And diolch, Alan, for presenting the annual monitoring report for 25-26, and thank you for all the excellent work that you do on this subject. The report lists statutory data that we need to publish as part of our compliance with the Welsh language standards. There are many activities happening throughout the year to promote our Welsh language services and culture. I see from the report that we are actively recruiting more Welsh speakers to our workforce, helping us to deliver Welsh language services where it's needed. We have increased the number of jobs requiring Welsh skills to 100%, an increase of 85% on the previous year. This clearly shows the Council's equality commitment to our communities. Of those who have completed their Welsh language skills, over 50 members of staff are fluent in Welsh across the 5 directorates. As Alan said, I would also like to encourage officers and staff to complete their language skills on IVA if they have not already done so. The Adults and Communities Directorates have worked hard to increase our Welsh language offer to our residents, working with our digital teams to find innovative ways to increase capacity and retain accuracy and consistency within current resources. Finally, the federated model will offer further opportunities to collaborate and increase the use of Welsh language across both councils. Diolch, and thank you again, Alan.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any further questions or comments? No. Can I also say diolch, thank you, Alan. That takes us to the recommendations, which are on page 10 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That report is carried. Diolch, Alan. Diolch, Councillor Jones. Agenda item 9, motions on notice. There are no motions on notice, so it will take us to agenda item 10, which is the members' question time. There are 3 members' questions today. Let me just get my sheet. The first question is Councillor Stuart Keat.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. My question centres around EDI provisions within Torfaen. I understand the Leader of the Council is going to be answering this question. Thank you. My question is whether equity, diversity and inclusion, EDI training, is mandatory for Council employees and elected members. The total cost incurred by the Council in providing EDI training during each of the last 3 financial years, the principal objectives of that training, whether the training includes guidance relating to personal pronouns, inclusive language, unconscious bias, privilege, systematic discrimination, allyship, anti-racism, and what assessment has been made of the effectiveness of this training and its impact on organisational culture, decision-making and service delivery within Torfaen Council.
Leader.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Keats. Following Councillor Thomas's question at the last meeting regarding spend on equality, diversity and inclusion programmes, I welcome another opportunity to highlight the Council's proportionate approach to this important issue. In doing so, I'd like to emphasise that as a public service provider, we have a responsibility to provide services to all parts of our communities, whatever their age, gender, race, sexual orientation or religion. It's also important to assess how we serve key groups like veterans or those with disabilities or other additional needs that can impact accessing public services. I'm very aware that councils, like all large organisations, need to be more adaptive to ensure everyone gets the best possible experience accessing our services. I'm also aware of our perspective as an employer in answering this question. Our employees come from all backgrounds, so we need to make them feel welcome and empowered to serve our residents. Programmes like our Diverse Minds and Rebel Torfaen groups have unlocked real hidden potential within our workforce, for example, which has helped improve services. I'd also like to thank the trade unions for their hard work in this area. An equality session is included as part of the members' induction, so elected members have an understanding of the Equality Act and how this relates to their role. It's important to ensure that members understand their job fully, including legal duties under the Public Sector Equalities Duty and the responsibility of considering equality impact assessments that accompany reports when making important decisions. Council employees have a single mandatory equalities module to complete. This is supported by a growing number of complementary e-learning modules around topics such as neurodiversity that are not mandatory but are available for teams or individuals who wish to develop their knowledge and understanding. I'd like to respond very clearly on the total cost incurred by the Council in providing this training during each of the last 3 financial years. The mandatory training for staff was produced in-house at no cost other than staff time, which was actually largely funded by the Welsh Government rather than core council budgets. Depending on need, we will sometimes provide supplementary training in specific areas, and the costs totalled £3,267.69 across the 3 years. So all in all, an average spend of less than £1,100 per year. In terms of the principal objectives of the training and what it includes, ultimately the mandatory training helps people understand the Equality Act. You'll know the content of the member session as you've been through it yourself. The mandatory module for staff helps establish the organisation's inclusive values and touches upon unconscious bias, privilege, discrimination, allyship and anti-racism. There is always more we can do to learn, but I'm pleased that complaints linked to the Equality Act are consistently low in number and rarely upheld. I believe that the short investment of staff time on EDI training results in people generally having positive experiences when accessing our services, but we can always do more. Such training is completely sensible as an investor-save consideration as well, given that the result is that we don't get hit with expensive legal action resulting from upheld resident complaints. The training can also have added benefits. Two examples. One was the session yesterday on suicide awareness, and also from the deaf and deafblind awareness session for staff that was targeted at certain sections of staff. From that session, a hearing loop and speaker system was being actively used within the Cumbrian 50+ forum. Numerous hard of hearing members have stated this has considerably improved their experience at the meetings, and it's also been used for one-to-one meetings here at the Civic. As well as recommending this equipment, the trainer involved went on to join Torvine Access Forum and is now voluntarily supporting us with discussions about implications of the new British Sign Language Wales Bill, which have provided useful insight from the perspective of both a professional and as a deaf resident.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Keats.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for that comprehensive answer. I think first and foremost, I think to say that the cost of training is £1,100, I don't think that's reasonable or fair or accurate, because clearly people's time in terms of delivering those services would be considerably more than that. I think my area would be, at a time when council finances are under pressure, can you think of one area where you would say, where this deployment of EDI training is of real benefits to the residents itself? And in particular, where, you mentioned as well about it being mandatory for the council members, but for members like myself, when I went through the training itself, it seems though that it was optional for myself. I believe, for myself as a council member. But when I went through the training, it was perceived to me that it was mandatory training. So the question is, is it mandatory for elected members, or is it just mandatory for the council, for council employees themselves?
In answer to that direct question, as a member, you have a choice of what to attend or not. However, it is put on for all members, and I would welcome all members taking it. In terms of value for money, this for me, if we're a council that wants to work with our community, and we're a council that wants to do things like the deal and working hard with our community, I don't see this as a choice between spending money on that or this. I think it's vital that we do both so we can provide services effectively, being considerate of everyone we serve. If people don't feel able and welcome to approach us because they don't feel the response they get is understanding of their perspective, then not only do they lose out in terms of not being able to access services, but we lose out in terms of being able to work with them to provide services and to make our communities better. The whole point of the deal is that we don't want a one-way flow of conversation between residents and the council. We want residents working with the council and talking to them. We can only be an active partner in that if people feel they are respected and understood when they approach us, whatever their background, whatever the colour of their skin, whatever their sexuality. So these things aren't for me a choice between equality and effectiveness. You can't have an effective public service organisation that doesn't respect different people's perspectives. And that, for me, is why I don't accept the premise of the question. I believe this is a very small amount of money. You are right that there's time that's used in addition to that, but it's a small amount of time to go up on these services. And I reckon, I believe that is, very good value for money when it comes to properly serving our communities, properly serving all the people in our communities, and being an approachable and effective public service organisation.
Thank you very much for that. Just one small point. Yeah, I very much appreciate that, and I'm very much in favour of treating everybody equally and fair. But I think only right and proper that there are times then we do review evaluate and ensure that the training we are delivering is fit for purpose.
Supplementary. You shouldn't have a further bite at it. This is a statement that you're not normally allowed.
Question 2 is Councillor David Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Councillor Jones, regarding the railway bridge over the Bolton Lake, you've said officers will continue to monitor the situation. Could you explain precisely what officers are monitoring? We already know the bridge is inaccessible to wheelchair users and disabled residents. We already know the alternative route is considerably longer. We already know there is no funding allocated and no replacement scheme being developed. So what evidence are officers waiting for that they don't already have today? Isn't monitoring simply another way of avoiding a decision on whether this administration intends to restore equal access to the Bolton Lake or not?
Councillor Peter Jones.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. In answer to the question, there are two forms of monitoring. We monitor the level of any complaints with regard to accessibility or restrictions of access. And secondly, we regularly review the structural integrity of the bridge, which will ultimately inform whether the bridge remains open for use. If the bridge is identified as being close to the end of its design life, then this will trigger an options appraisal for future accessibility of the Bolton Lake.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Thomas, do you have a supplementary on that?
I do have a supplementary, Madam Presiding Member. I'm not so sure whether officers are actually going to the bridge. The problem with your answer, Councillor Jones, is you're presenting this as though the council is still gathering information, but there's no information missing. You know disabled residents cannot use the bridge. You know the alternative route is substantially longer.
Can we have
you
the
know there is
supplementary
no
question,
funding.
please?
Yeah, so basically, and I will ask directly then, Madam Presiding Member, thought you'd have me again this term. Has this administration taken a conscious decision that disabled residents will simply have to continue using the longer route indefinitely, yes or no? Because if the answer is no, then tell us what specific events officers are waiting for before action is taken. And if you cannot identify that event, isn't the truth that monitoring is just a simple, convenient way of avoiding saying publicly that this administration has no intention whatsoever of restoring equal access to the Bolton Lake?
Councillor Thomas, if we go back to the answer I gave you in March, I went into full details about our legal responsibilities. There are alternative accessible routes to the Bolton Lake, and we are keeping this under review. That position has not changed. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but what I will say, I don't think in this current financial year anything will happen with regard to this bridge. But I don't have a crystal ball. I've said to you, if I get involved in any discussions regarding capital expenditure, I will raise this issue with officers, but that does not guarantee that things will change. And that is my position on this matter and the Council's position.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor David Thomas, would you like to ask question 3, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Leader, at the time where residents are concerned about the condition of our roads, public spaces and local services, do you believe that Torfaen Council has the right balance between spending on administration and spending on frontline services? And what steps is the Council taking to ensure resources are directed to the services residents actually use and value?
Leader.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Thomas. I fully recognise the concerns that residents have about the condition of roads, public spaces and local services. Those concerns are shared by all of us in the Chamber, as indeed in other chambers around the UK. The challenge we all face is how we sustain and improve those in the face of increasing demand and continued financial pressure. That is precisely why this Council has taken the decision to move forward with federation with Blaenau Gwent. I have previously set out publicly that the status quo isn't a sensible or attractive option if we want to improve outcomes for residents and sustain vital local services. We want to align our organisations where it makes sense to do so and deliver efficiency starting at the very top, including the shared salary costs of a federated leadership team, so we can focus on resources at the coalface of local service delivery in our communities. And as I promised, the most immediate and tangible benefit of the Federation is that it reduces duplication at the very top of the organisation. That's why the question strikes me as interesting, coming from a party that voted against that federation. Across the two councils, the federated model has already delivered a 47% reduction at the most senior leadership level, ensuring that we are running both organisations with a significantly leaner corporate core. The purpose of federation is about prioritising frontline services, just as the question asks. Reform have voted against this in previous meetings of the Council, but our plans for further administrative efficiencies are now well underway. On top of that 47% saving from the senior team, we now have several joint or shared leadership posts in our structure, including HR, public protection environment, planning, commercial investment, place development, property services, transformation, the project management office and adult social care. More plans are being worked on. This is particularly important given the wider context, with all councils in the UK coming under unprecedented pressure, with a growing proportion of budgets being directed towards demand-led services such as social care. That inevitably places pressure on visible services like highways, neighbourhoods and public spaces. We are the only councils in Wales operating in this way and have been recognised by Welsh Government and our regulators as being pioneers. Federation also strengthens our ability to deliver for residents over the long term. By working across two councils, we're able to share specialist expertise and scarce skills and build stronger and more resilient services. So the approach isn't only about savings, it's also about improving outcomes. Shared services and collaborative models have been shown to improve consistency and performance, streamline processes, reduce delays and enhance the overall experience of residents. Through the Federation, residents benefit from stronger services underpinned by that shared expertise and the better use of resources. I trust that assures our public that we've made the difficult decisions when we've needed to. So that's spending on senior management down, spending on schools up by £12.8 million over 3 years, spending on administration down and spending on roads up by £8 million, and the lowest council tax rise anywhere in Wales over the past 4 years. More playground improvements, more spending on local environments, more new state-of-the-art pitches across the borough, refurbished tennis courts from Blenavon to Pont Newydd, more work with community groups and volunteers under the deal. There's always more to do, but we're determined to move beyond soundbites, roll up our sleeves and do more in and with our communities.
Leader, thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Madam Presiding Member. I do have a supplementary. I won't get into the lowering myself of why parties vote the way they do, when the leader knows exactly why we did. But if the leader thinks that Torfaen Council already has the right balance between administration and frontline services, why do so many residents feel they're paying more and getting less? At what point does the administration stop telling residents everything is working and start accepting that taxpayers are not seeing a return on the ever-increasing bills they are being asked to pay for?
Leader.
I'll never stop striving for those improvements, and federation is exactly because I don't believe that the status quo is the best way forwards. I believe that we need to transform to put more money into those frontline services to make more of a difference across all the services we provide, including, importantly, some of the invisible services that we provide, the sensitive services from social care, of course schools and things like that, as well as those environmental services. I'll never stop striving to be better. I'll never just justify the status quo. We need to invest more in frontline services. Federation is the way of doing that, and that's why it's quite justifiable for me to hold parties to account when they vote against the very measures that will help us invest more in those frontline services.
Thank you for those questions. That takes us to agenda item 11, which is the Cabinet decisions of the 18th of March 2026. The Cabinet decisions start on page 33 and are for the Council to note. There were no challenges to any of the decisions. Any members wishing to comment or ask a question on those minutes? Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations then, please? All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you and noted. Next agenda item is the date and time of the next meeting. For your information, members, the next Tuesday, the 21st of July, 2026 at 10 a.m. Thank you, members, for attending the meeting, online and in the chamber. The meeting is now closed.